This video is about the differences between a cost leadership strategy and a differentiation strategy. With cost leadership, we hope to establish a cost advantage. And with a differentiation strategy, we hope to establish a differentiation advantage. So cost leadership is what? It requires you to find and exploit every single element of cost that are in your system to expel anything that is not a part of your system from selling a standard no frills product. So you're pushing all of the costs out of your system, all of the extraneous costs that you do not need out of your system. Differentiation, on the other hand, requires the firm to provide a unique product, a unique service that is more valuable than the low-cost product or service. So up front, are you a cost leader or a differentiator? This decision is probably the most important decision after the decision of what is it, where are you going to play, and how are you going to win? Then your third decision is, will you be a cost leader? Will you be a differentiator? And so that question determines if you're going to sacrifice certain customers for product standardization, meaning that you're going to be able to produce your product at the very lowest cost, meaning that those certain customers that want extras for your product will not be receiving those extras because those extras add an extra cost to your product. And so what does a cost leader do? They must continuously better understand those cost drivers and relentlessly modify operations to achieve the lowest cost. So cost reduction is the holy grail there. And so when we talk about cost drivers, what are cost drivers? Cost drivers are any factors that cause a change in the cost of the activity. And so we say, well, what are some examples of cost drivers? The number of direct labor hours worked, the number of machine hours used, the number of product returns from customers, the cost of warehousing, the cost of purchasing, the number of machine setups that are required for production, the cost of maintenance per volume of machine hour, the number of or the amount of power that is consumed, the amount of waste or rejected output. Those are examples of cost drivers. Differentiators, on the other hand, what do? Those managers try to continuously provide a better and more enhanced service. And so here, what are we looking at? We're not looking at cost. We are looking at how can we delight the customer? What are the extras that we believe our customer will want now and in the future? So what are some examples of cost leaders and differentiators? Walmart, McDonald's, Kia, Anheuser-Busch, Dell. Those are examples of cost leaders that they're pushing out as many costs as possible to deliver a no-frills, standardized product, whereas differentiators are Target, Ruth's Chris, Mercedes, Nike, Apple. I was actually in the Apple store yesterday, as a matter of fact, trying to get some headphones. There are 3 different types of headphones. So your basic, which start at $125 or $129. Your next, I believe, is $199. And then your third one is $249, I believe. So what is Apple trying to do? None of these are cheap by any stretch. And if you want something that's nice, that fits your ear, that does this, that does that, again, Apple is looking to be the differentiator to provide for all of those needs of the customer. So when we see what are the sources of cost advantage, we've already talked about certain cost drivers. Where can we find those cost drivers. They come from economies of scale, economies of learning, the production techniques, production design, input costs, capacity utilization, residual efficiency. When we look at differentiation, though, again, we're changing the page. We're turning that page. We are looking at other items. Differentiation is about identifying and understanding every single interaction between the firm and the customer. How can we do this? We can look at our value chain to look at what our price drivers are, and we ask how each of these interactions can be enhanced so that we can provide additional value from each single interaction. So those price drivers, understanding what the price drivers do, help us to add value to our customer, help us to understand or to analyze our value chain so that we can provide enhanced value. So what are some examples there of our price drivers? Price drivers are anything that are attributes, benefits, the value of a good or service. It's inclusivity, it's exclusivity, it's luxury, it's the size, it's the color, it's the feel. It's anything that has to do with adding to that perceived value for our activity, for our particular product. And then we have as well what is called a value driver. So when we think of a value driver, what is that value driver? That value driver is similar to the price driver in that the value driver is anything that makes our product seem better than our competitors' products. And so where does that come from? It's anything that appeals to the five senses. It's advertising. It's any perception in saving of time or money. It's any perception of beauty. Why do you see the most beautiful stars that are hawking perfumes, for example, or watches? So it's anything that is appealing to those senses. And it's a sense of adventure as well. Why do you see the Subarus? And there they are. They're going through the canyons, through the Grand Canyon. It's serenity. It is brand reputation. It's customer service. So those value drivers are anything, again, that would seem to make our product better than our customers' products. And so when we look at the differences between the strategies, between a cost leadership strategy and a differentiation strategy, here is information from, it's a strategy formulation. We're looking at differentiation does what for us? It provides insulation against competitive rivalry due to brand loyalty. So actually, differentiation is a barrier to entry. So it's differentiation and brand loyalty. Again, think of Apple. Apple customers are not really that concerned with price. They don't have millions and millions of dollars, obviously, but price is not their purchasing reason, their purchasing factor. They are going off of that reputation of Apple, after that service of Apple, after that innovation of Apple, after that design of Apple, after that being in the clique of Apple, being in the family of Apple, being different because you are Apple. That's what is a brand loyalty. That is what is a barrier to entry. So differentiation as well increases margins, which avoids the need for a low cost position. We mentioned our entry barriers. Differentiation adds obviously a higher margin. And so with that higher margin, we can influence our supplier power with regard to Porter's Five Forces. So we can have larger purchases, larger contracts, or we can pay earlier And so normally you have 210 net 30. What about, I worked with Cleveland Cliffs, and the director there negotiated greater than a 2% discount if they paid within, I believe, 3 days of receiving the invoice. So maybe it's only 2.5% or 2.25%, but when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars over time, it will be millions of dollars over time. That is real money. So that differentiation, yielding that higher margin, allows you to influence that terrain of supplier power. As well, it can help reduce buyer power because the perception is there are no comparable alternatives. So that brand loyalty, going back to Apple, don't believe that the Microsoft products are comparable alternatives. Not to say that it's not an alternative, but comparable alternative being the key there. And then as well, that differentiated company, that differentiated product has its customer loyalty that does what the other part of Porter's 5 forces is substitutes from competitors. So again, it reduces the power of buyers, it reduces the power of suppliers, it reduces as well that threat of substitutes and that threat of new entry. And so all of that together, the rivalry there of the competitors, that brand loyalty and differentiation can help to make your firm appear to be like a monopoly. So after appearing to be like a monopoly, the question becomes, which is easier to sustain? Is it a differentiation advantage or is it a cost advantage?